Good evening, friends. Joy to see you. Thanks for being here. As I reflect on the evolution of yoga, my own kind of process of evolving through yoga as a system, it may have started off more like just appreciating some found sense of range of motion, just greater ease in the body, or just a sense of lightness in my step, or like my energy just felt more fluid, and all of which was like remarkable improvement. Right? The converse of that would be to feel like drained and stuck and heavy and inert and bound and limited. Right? So, if you had to take your pick, which would you lean towards, or what would be your preference, right? So the sense of, physical and energetic freedom were the kind of initial signs of there's something going on here. And the more time I've spent with the yoga process, the kind of lessons that the practices invoke or reveal have to do with that, certainly feeling more energetic, but also, in a few words, just greater self-understanding. So understanding, or starting to recognize the patterns by which I either support joy or the patterns by which I undermine my joy. And so that requires a bit of self-understanding. So it's a different sort of grade of lesson or impression or purpose. To move from just lightness in my step to wanting to suffer less, suffer my own, limitations of my own thought constructs, and where I get reactive or triggered, or wanting to lead or support a harmonious household, where people get along and treat one another respectfully. It just feels like the stakes get bigger, for like why we're in this game, both the life game and the yoga game. So our inquiry this month is around will, right? Understanding will as a central medium of the human experience. Right? It has more to do with the latter category, self-understand. Has more to do with self-understanding and increasing my range of motion. If we spend some time with self-inquiry, we might develop some curiosity around something like will. What's my capacity? What's my agency on this earth? Right? This is a huge point of both consternation, like I'm not enough, or why does this keep happening to me, as well as a possible point of like liberation and realization. So it's very significant within, say, the human psyche, our relationship or our capacity for will. And one of the ways that to kind of bring a bit of yoga psychology into this is our capacity for will, determined effort, is shaped or informed by this faculty we have called buddhi. And what buddhi means is the power of discernment, or what's been described as the context maker. It's the frame we put around a picture to accentuate or highlight or characterize whatever it is that we're experiencing. So whether that's, your workplace environment or a significant relationship or your own habitual thoughts, there is buddhi is what allows us just a bit of space around our perception and can reframe, recharacterize, recontext. I mean, it'll either do it by default or we can do it consciously. That's the power of buddhi. To create meaning, essentially, to decide what things mean, as opposed to solely and principally being at the mercy of the whims of our thought, which are quite erratic by their own nature. They go up, they go down. They go, I want this, I don't want that. No, not that one. Not that one, not that, no, that. And all the tension that goes along with that. Okay? But the increased faculty of buddhi will allow just a little more breathing room around life experience, to be less reactive and to be a bit more discerning. And in some way, that combination equals wisdom, right? Equals the ability to take a lot of complex stimulus and reaction and interpretation and judgment and make it very simple. I feel sad right now. Can take all the accumulated confusion and find what's most true in any given circumstance and to kind of speak and orient from there. So this is, a golden power within the mind that the yogis, in a sense, capitalized on. That are develop practices to develop this power, such as meditation, foremost. Meditation followed shortly by breathing or pranayama. These are ways that we can begin to sculpt the higher powers of mind, to sculpt the buddhi, the intellect, your powers of discernment. And rolled up within all of that is our will, our agency within our own life and in relationship to all of life. Right? And to see more and more clearly what's actually happening. What's actually happening, as opposed to the layers of presumption, judgment, expectation, desire. So many things where we just create this independent reality. And we call that, me. And we call that self. And we call that my life. But it's only a very finite and self-referential version. It's like a cheap knockoff of reality, as opposed to reality, right? So the whole yoga process in many ways is the stilling of thought or fluctuation of mind and all the static that happens within buddhi, so that we can have a clear vision of truth, self, and live more wondrously in a sense, or honestly. So that's a lot to try to roll into, say, an asana practice, and then kind of like jam that into triangle pose. But it falls in that latter category that I was mentioning earlier about the kinds of self-reflection that are possible through continued yogic inquiry and just getting curious about how the game of life is put together. and how to do it in a way that supports your freedom, right? So we'll roll and kind of toy with some of these ideas within the context of asana. But for the most part, this is intended for you just to chew on, in the coming weeks and whatnot. All right. Peace.